that is an obvious state level targeting of trans people in ways that is not only going to like make it harder for trans people to live, but put them in even more danger in every single situation in their life. And that I think is a much bigger sign of where we are culturally.
Hey, y'all. Welcome back to Queer 101, the podcast where we talk about any and everything under the sun, including queer art, queer culture, queer literature. I am Peppermint.
And I'm Hugh Ryan, aka Hugh the Historian.
Yeah, honey, Hugh, I have to say, what a week, what a month, what a year, what a life, what a decade, it has been pretty much every single day. Honey, I know we've been talking a lot about what's been going on, but it just seems like it is accelerating, doesn't it?
Yeah. It feels like it's been a year since we talked a week ago. And that's just, I don't know, the middle of February. Every day feels like more news has happened than I can process in a usual year.
I mean, I don't know either. Sometimes I'm trying to figure out how we even made it to this point, to be honest with you. Well, I just wanted to greet the viewers really quickly. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I know that this is a little bit off our usual path, our usual topics, because we always talk about queer literature and queer books and queer art and queer film. But today, this is a little bit of a different vibe, you know. By the way, even before we go any further, please remember to like and subscribe to this video that you're watching right now. And if you're listening to us, and leave a comment, all that jazz, so that you can get the updates that we will be announcing soon on our channel and on our page. Anyway, yeah, this is a little bit off the usual topic, but honey, it's impossible to, no matter what you're doing, whether you're going to work, whether you're having fun, or you're going to the movies or hanging out with friends, it's nearly impossible to ignore and to not be aware of what is going on.
And
Right,
so
Hugh?
much of it that is like directly affected at the queer community, at trans folks, at queer young people, especially. I mean, in some ways, I have to say, like, the worst part of being a historian in this moment is how much all of
Mm.
this stuff feels like we're just seeing the worst parts of the last 100 years of queer history reappear all at once. I mean, just to deal with one of the like most minor and yet still absolutely shitty things going on this like last couple of weeks. Shia LaBeouf bringing back the Twinkie defense, the gay panic defense, saying that, you know, he's scared of big gay people and that's why he had to beat people up at Mardi Gras. And that is
You
being
called it the
repeated
Twinkie
and
defense?
accepted. Yeah, that's what, when Dan White killed Harvey Milk, part of the defense was that he had like eaten too many Twinkies and was on a sugar high, and then he had this gay panic over Harvey Milk, and
Um,
so they called it the Twinkie defense or the gay panic defense. And you know, that's been really invalidated
mhm.
by the courts over the last like 15, 20 years. But it's Shia LaBeouf is bringing it back, right? It's not his fault. Scary big gay people were flirting with him at a bar. I mean, what was he to do?
Yeah, it's abhorrent, and I don't take it seriously because he's been drunk. He's been like, and he's been so unbelievably inebriated, almost
Mhm.
incoherently in every video that I've seen of him. Not only when he was beating people up, but then also when he was getting arrested, and then also when he had his interview. That's what everyone's talking about. I watched the interview when it came
Mhm.
out. I actually watched it live, and you know, I would be so offended if I didn't feel like I was sitting and watching someone who was in active addiction, but then also drunk in the moment, searching for something to
Mhm.
say. And that's what it felt like
Yeah.
he was doing. Not that there's any excuse to do that. I mean, you know, I think that the Twinkie defense is BS anyway, but it hasn't
Mhm.
really gone away. I think that a lot of people just sort of turned that internalized homophobia onto the trans community. And those excuses for murdering trans women are still around. The only reason we don't hear them is because nobody cares to, people don't tune in, you know, but it's
Mhm.
obviously still happening. Like the murder rate for trans women is still climbing. And if it's investigated and if it makes it to court, then still overwhelmingly the response is, well, I didn't know, you know, this person was trans, blah, 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 which
Mhm.
is internalized homophobia. So I don't think from my vantage point, it hasn't really gone anywhere. But it is interesting to see a white person talking about, a white man talking about homophobia in a way that's like, I was afraid of the gays. Like I haven't seen that in a while. Um, and
Yeah.
so that
And I
is
think we already knew from
interesting,
Shia LaBeouf, from everything with the FKA Twigs, abuse situation. Like everybody has known that he is this kind of violent man. And it doesn't surprise me that he did this. It doesn't surprise me that he thinks this, but that it is what the defense that he goes to publicly thinking it will work. Like that's a throwback to 20 years ago for me, at least in this situation. And that's, I think, like the smallest scale of the bullshit that's happening in like queer life this week.
like a Donald Trump, not to bring him up, but like a Donald Trump saying something I can tell is as low IQ as it feels. It feels
Mhm.
calculating. And Shia LaBeouf doesn't feel that preemptively calculating to me. He doesn't feel that intelligent. I don't feel like I'm watching someone who's one or two steps ahead of me. I feel like I'm watching
Mhm.
someone who's like literally just reacting in the moment to what's going on around him. Um, and so, I think he's dangerous, but I think he's more dangerous because he is an alcoholic who is
Mhm.
drinking than anything else. Do you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
I would like to think it's that he has I haven't really heard that much about him. Like I know that when obviously he and FKA Twigs, this went all the way to court. Um I don't know the details of it. Was he drinking or using when they were fighting and sort of during all that? I wonder. Because then, you would see him after that and he would seem composed and calm, not slurring his speech.
Mhm.
And so it seems like it's possible for him to not do those things. But my big fear is if I see him calm and composed, wearing a suit, and also saying, I hate gay people, then I'll be afraid. Do you know what I mean? Because he seems like a drunk guy who's talking just nonsense. Like, I could not follow I watched the whole interview. It was
Mhm.
not coherent.
No, it's
I
true.
don't know
And I think that
what clips you saw.
I agree. And I think that it will be much worse if, he saying these same things while sober. I do often think though that like this stuff coming out in a moment where you're drunk, in a moment where you're looking to deflect attention, um,
Hmm.
it sets you on a path that you then double down on. It's like that how transphobia often is this like
Yeah.
door for like set left wing figures to move over to the right. It's like it feels like he's kind of opening a door. And I wonder, like you
Do
said,
you?
what will he be saying in 2 weeks in a suit?
And I think worst case scenario, he's just still drunk again, doing different things. And I mean, what would he be deflecting from? His alcoholism?
I think from the violence that he's culpable of it, that the deflection is
Mm-hmm.
this is not my fault. I was provoked. And gay people in public are
Mm-hmm.
provocational, that this is a reason why we have to have laws around, like what kind of displays are allowed in public, how people dress. It threatens people like him. I think that's the deflection that I think about a lot here, that it's not about his alcoholism and it's not about a propensity towards violence, but rather that just the presence of out flirtatious gay people will provoke some people to violence, and that should be a mitigating factor in
Mm-hmm.
how we deal with it. Uh,
Yeah,
that's the thing I
I
think about
think
a lot.
that that'll be really interesting because that would put a Shia LaBeouf into the center of politics, still drunk. And it'd be really interesting to see him like slurring in front of the president. I think we should pass this bill. So I don't know that that's going to
He
happen.
and Pete
I really
Hegseth
do
can end
think
up
he's,
doing that together.
yeah, honestly, yeah, he'll probably get a
Yeah.
job. Um,
Oh, yeah.
so yeah, yeah, yeah. Like it's obviously like it's abhorrent. It is terrible. And it seems like cheap and predictable and tired and old. Like, like not like a
Hmm.
new or clever way, but I don't even feel, it doesn't feel like he's even trying to excuse it or like, I don't, I sit and watch these people drop these seeds, these transphobic seeds, these racist seeds of things that are going to go into fruit. He doesn't seem like he's doing that to me. He
Yeah.
seems like he is just saying whatever, whatever is feels like it might stick. I do think the dangerous part is he's doing that in an atmosphere that is already primed for anti-LGBT sentiment. you know,
Hmm.
and it's interesting. I haven't heard a lot of anti-gay attacks on a larger scale, like specifically anti-gay,
Anti-gay,
only
yeah.
classic homophobic attacks.
Classic
Um,
flavor,
you know,
original recipe homophobia.
yeah, yeah, because I feel like even a lot of the transphobia that we hear gets sort of homogenized into it's anti-LGBT, even though this is
Yeah.
specifically anti-trans. You know, I hear a lot of people describing the license ban on trans people in Kansas
Hmm.
as
Kansas.
anti-LGBT, but it's not. It's anti-trans specifically. It obviously impacts the
Yeah.
LGBTQ plus community. Um, but Shia, I really do think that you know, it was wild and shocking to me. I'm like, is he still around? Like, why are we? It's so bizarre to me that like he's back in the public discourse, of all the
Hmm.
things. And I really do think that that interview by Channel 5, and I actually am a follower of that channel. I do think that that interview just felt like someone should have said, you know what? Besides he's not doing himself any favors, Shia, by participating in this interview. It feels like we're interviewing somebody in their lowest moment, that they're unstable and no one's getting anything out of it. I think the only thing that I could get out of that interview is that, oh, this person needs help, and
Yeah.
he looks like he could, like, there's something that seems like it's terribly wrong. Yes, homophobic. Yes, violent. But beyond that, he seems like he's
Hmm.
just on a path to self-destruction,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. It's a
obviously a
lot of
danger to other
addiction, a lot of
people.
trauma.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
it doesn't even seem like
Yeah.
somebody
No.
who's like functioning.
No, and I think that it's more of the sort of individual interpersonal stuff that's not at the same level as like the other stuff we're seeing happening right now. Like you already brought up the Kansas ban, like that is an obvious state level targeting of trans people in ways that is not only going to like make it harder for trans people to live, but put them in even more danger in every single situation in their life. And that I think is a much bigger sign of where we are culturally.
Yeah, so we should talk about it. So Kansas just put forth uh, an instant policy, essentially, recently, overnight, essentially, invalidating and revoking the driver's licenses of uh, everyone who's trans in the state. And I wonder, like, how do they really know, or who's who? Did anybody slip through the cracks? How are they
Yep.
like determining that? And I guess the only way that they're doing it is the people who've had gender marker changes on their,
Gender changes.
um,
Yeah.
documents. But it is interesting to see sort of how this will develop. But in addition to them not being losing their license, obviously they can't legally drive with these revoked licenses. But then also,
Hmm.
it stops them from being able to cash a check, or like whatever, anything you would use your ID to do, they are no longer able to
Sign
do.
a
So it
lease.
really disenfranchises them. Vote,
Yeah.
which is
Vote.
simultaneously
Hmm.
what they're trying to do, is pass the Save Act, that are basically voter ID laws on steroids. And
Hmm.
it's interesting that you're going to begin disenfranchising people 6 months before the November election, when every single week he talks about the elections. We should take over the elections. We don't think they're going to be fair. We're going to stop mail-in voting. We're going to do this and that. We're going to pass the Save Act,
Hmm.
which causes people to need to have multiple forms of identification, including birth certificates that are original. And if you have to change your name, you can't get it. All these different things. And now we have this for the trans people. And if anything, it just provides a blueprint for the states to follow the same path. For obviously all the
Hmm.
other states to follow the same path, but then even as a microcosm for what he's doing with the passports of trans people, which is also a
Yeah.
decision that we're waiting to hear. There was an injunction that was put forth by a federal judge, federal court, that allowed relief of the recent win with the Orr versus Donald Trump and this Department of State, that granted trans people relief to continue to get their gender markers changed on their passports and use those as valid passports. And then another federal judge came in and blocked that injunction and said, no, while they're in the Supreme Court, we're going to halt all trans passports. And in addition, the Department of State, I heard, I don't know, it's not verified, put in a request to the Department. The president put in a request to the Department of State to about a week and a half ago to stop all passports. I don't know if you saw that. This might be
No, wait,
gossip.
to stop
Let me
all
look
say,
this up.
yeah. The thing that it was making me think about a lot is again, this idea of like we are moving backwards so quickly. I think not a lot of people really think about or recognize or even remember that until like 1990, being gay was considered a psychopathic personality by the Department of State, and you could be denied the right to immigrate to the US because of you were gay. And that is so close in time. Do you know? Like I think that some of these things feel like, oh, we've had these rights forever, but actually like this is they are really tearing at rights that have only recently come around and making it impossible to trust. I mean, not that we can trust the government at all anyways, but it's like the people, like you said, the ones who are about to be most screwed by
Hmm.
Kansas are the ones who listened and did the official gender marker changes that they are now using as the ways to hunt them down. But what were you looking up again? This rumor?
So the passport story I was saying, it's not all passports, it's all passports processed at libraries. And so
Yes.
nationwide, there's been a cease on libraries being able to. So now it really limits the places that you can get your passport processed, updated, renewed, whatever it's going to be. I guess right now people can still go to post offices. I know that that's like a public, place where people can publicly access. That obviously the post office is a federal office or location. And anyway, so these trans people are in Kansas. In addition to having their licensure revoked, there is a penalty of I think 6 months in state prison for violation, which is I
Just
guess you continuing to carry the
use your license,
transgender
yeah.
version of your passport,
Hmm.
the accurate version. Uh,
Yeah.
and then in addition to that, then they've also simultaneously deputized all of the citizens of Kansas to hunt and seek out people that they suspect for being trans with a $1,000. I don't know. I don't remember if it's a reward or a penalty, but going into bathrooms, going into
Hmm.
places and like accusing people and then calling the cops and having hopefully that person in their mind, hopefully having that person arrested. And so it is like extremely aggressive, like you said,
Yeah.
extremely
And just
aggressive.
like this,
I don't even know
you
if
were
that's
pointing
the
out how this
word to
dovetails
say.
with the SAVE Act. It dovetails with what they're doing in prisons, where they're now pushing to deny all forms of gender affirming care to incarcerated people, to take their hormones away, to force them to cut their hair, to take chest binders from them. It's like all of these policies, we hear about them piecemeal, but the total is to like criminalize trans identity, to force everyone to either like forcibly go back or to live a life where they are put into prison and forcibly transitioned. And that is, I mean, just again, as a historian, since the 1950s, the New York City probation department was pulling this shit on, at that point they called them homosexuals, but it was this same kind of, if you were arrested, one of the things that would get you thrown out of probation and back into jail was if you grew your hair out, if you were ever caught with makeup, if you had gay friends, if you went to a bar with gay people in it. It's like these policies are coming right back around and they're being made into like one big criminalization for basically any kind of trans life. And similarly there with the prison stuff, there's been an injunction, but incarcerated folks are saying like the injunction doesn't matter. We are not getting hormones. They're doing whatever they want.
I mean, yeah, it's terrifying. And the fact that you could get arrested for driving in this country, to be turned away from voting, unable to cash your check, not be able to get a new job because you usually need ID to begin work and, become
Mm.
enfranchised with something, and then get arrested while you're driving from that job interview or from the whatever, get arrested, thrown into jail, and then forced to detransition is, I don't
It's
know.
nightmarish. I mean,
It's wild. Yeah.
it is absolute persecution, and it is all around us. And then there are still people who are like, I don't know if it's going to be that bad, or like, oh no, if we don't do something now, we're going to end up in The Handmaid's Tale. And I'm like, we are already in it. We are.
It's
It's
already in it.
already
Yeah.
happened.
And
It's
I think
here.
that they're thinking,
There's,
oh, because we're not in red robes on Hulu. No,
um,
we're not.
and because it's, not as happening to as many cis women as it is trans women yet, so they're like, oh, well, it's not here yet, but it actually is. And
Yeah.
we were discussing red lines,
Yeah.
last week, and I keep thinking about that and how many of them seem to have been crossed in just the last 6 days.
It is out. Yeah, it's more, it's beyond out of control. And, there are silver linings. It's not just doom and gloom. There are people who are fighting this constantly. There are people who are resisting and trying to keep each other educated. There's obviously people who are creating art and trying to contribute to culture in some way
Hmm. And
to
incredible lawyers
entertain
and judges.
people. Yeah,
Mhm.
there's
There's
incredible
people
judges
working.
and lawyers for sure. Yeah, there are. Um, but it is really upsetting when you see institutionally, people sort of falling in line, also a lot of times preemptively, uh, responding to what we had said before in a previous episode a few weeks ago, that the Trump administration has basically gone on record and said that if you are an institution that does receive federal funding, churches, houses of house of worship, uh, institutions like higher learning, colleges, schools,
Hmm.
anything that receives, and there's I'd say most businesses do receive
Yep.
some sort of grant or funding or something, um, loans, things like that. Well, uh, any federal funding or any institution that receives federal funding, it has basically been threatened in more, in sometimes subtle ways, to remove every like semblance of anything that's DEI related, anything that's like race relations, anything that's trans related, LGBT related, focusing on women's issues or things like that.
Hmm.
Any of that stuff will they will risk their funding. And so Vanderbilt University Medical Center, which is apparently the only healthcare clinic, oh, it's definitely the only healthcare clinic in the state
The
of
only one. Yeah.
Tennessee, who prided themselves on wanting to have a very, like, wanted to be was their mantra is that they wanted to be the leading healthcare facility that was studying trans medicine in the country.
Hmm.
That was just a few years ago. Now
Yeah.
they've announced that they're cutting off their gender affirming surgical services for trans adults. Uh,
Hmm.
in addition to shutting down their gender affirming care services, not necessarily surgical, for trans youth. And
Yeah.
at simultaneously going to, believe, like, they're also going to be receiving federal funding so that they can expand
Hmm.
into
Yeah. Yeah.
another, I think
And
another state or another city. Yeah.
great, great. That's what we need. More people who are going to preemptively do these kind of moves. I mean, they just opened up that clinic 8 years ago. 8 years for them to go to such a 180. I mean, how can anyone ever trust Vanderbilt University again? I think is like the question on top of all of this. Like every organization is going to have their reputation so damaged by the ways they participate in this and the ways they preemptively get in line, like you said. It's terrible for every trans person in Tennessee. It's terrible for everyone who goes to Vanderbilt University. And if they expand further, uh, God. And you see this happening everywhere, this kind of like preemptive falling in line. I was just talking to some friends in the museum world about these two big shows that are happening right now, or just happened. The first, Homosexuals in a Queer Lens. They are blockbuster exhibitions, and they cannot find hosts to travel them to. And no one will say why, but everybody knows it's because the museums are getting federal funding, and they're afraid that accepting these like shows which are historical, not specifically about trans people, but yet the other museums are terrified to touch them. And in that way, that chilling effect, we are going to see these things reverberate. It doesn't matter if you're in Tennessee or you think it's just affecting trans youth or trans adults or just people in Tennessee. Like it is everywhere. These institutions falling into line make it so much easier for every other institution to fall into line. And some of them, you don't even hear about it. It's just, no, it's enough to make you feel, or at least me, paranoid all the time, which I know, like some of it's real. So it's like you're not paranoid because it is actually happening. But then it also turns every interaction, every moment into a sort of like, what's happening in this moment? What is actually the truth and who is out to get us? And like you
Yeah.
said, it's not all
Yeah. I
doom
mean,
and gloom. And I got to remind myself of that. But damn, it feels that way sometimes.
it's not. And yes, it does. And yes, it's not 100%. And it is, but it is, I guess the lesson for this is that we can learn that, if we're ever in a situation where where something like this is increasing on us again, that we learn from this moment and hopefully use history as a bit of a guide. Was really interesting to see. There's a YouTuber that I follow, Johnny Harris, who does some really brilliant videos, sort of like these video essays, and he did one on "Are we in fascism right now or not?" speaking to experts in the field, who gave responses all over the map. Fine. They all agree that they're like we're flirting with or about or relating with fascism, but to different degrees. Some people said, "Oh,
We're on a first date
this is
with
like fascism
fascism.
light." Yeah, or this is like a major thing, or like they're like, "No, it's just 2020. This is the 2026 version." You know, which will look very different than the 2056 version. Like they're all, so they were all over the place. But I didn't really appreciate that. I mean, one of the things that the video did that or didn't do that I thought was missing was really acknowledge the impact on who cares whether we officially call it fascism or not, bitch. Like people are getting dragged off the street and they're, like, what's that? Whatever that is, that's what this is. And so,
Name it what you
um,
want.
yeah, honey, who cares? Are there going to be enough of us around to take action once we do decide that it is fascism at that point? No,
No.
and so that's the thing that I think a lot of us, these big historical events were not historical events until somebody years later looked at them and said, oh, maybe that's a historical event. In the moment, they were just like, this is what's happening. And
Yeah.
there's a lot happening that is
Yeah.
disagreeable, to say the least.
And I think you're right, though, that we can look to history for like ways to deal with this, think about this, practical strategies. I've been hearing a lot of folks talking about taking a strategy that ACT UP and a lot of other early AIDS activists, Queer Nation really embraced, which was about, sharing medicines and going beyond and
Hmm.
around the medical establishment, doing communal centers to get both information and actual drugs out there, and these are modalities that I wish we did not have to invent in the 80s. But you know what? We did it. And now it's great to have them there as like living records. There are people who have done this before, who know how to set up these kind of like emergency clinics and these sharing systems. And I mean, that's one thing I'm really happy about is to have these queer elders who have like real tangible experiences that can practically lead us through this moment. If anybody hasn't read
Yeah.
Sarah Schulman's Let the Record Show, highly recommend. A fantastic book for looking at like how queer and trans communities organized around ACT UP and what went wrong and what worked.
Let the record show. Let it be
Good
known,
name too.
honey. Yeah, I have to check that. I have to check that out. And I think one component that is, I don't want to say extremely different, but particular is that, historically, we know that fascist regimes and administrations, whatever you want to call them, did have a very close relationship and connection to corporations, the corporations of their day, which is obviously there's nothing different today. However, I do think that in 2026, we're dealing with a level of literal wealth that is way beyond anything we've ever seen in our country. There was obviously, with it, inflation being adjusted, there was the equivalent or something that was similar, but it just has not been this high. So the incentive to do better just seems more and more elusive for a lot of these people in power. And so we see that the power is corrupting people. And that's what they want more of. The Vanderbilt University is not changing that because they really wholeheartedly believe that trans people are not good. They're just doing it so that they can get access to money and power. And
Hmm.
that's what it is. And so I hope that whatever it's going to be, that when we come out on the other side of this, I hope
Yeah.
that we're able to, have built a new relationship to money and power, which
Yeah.
sounds like so woo woo, I guess, but I think it's
But it's
necessary.
real. Yeah, and it's on a woo-woo level and on a practical level. Like, I mean, I think Mamdani pushing for this like millionaire billionaire tax is necessary. I think reforming the Supreme Court in some way so that Citizens United gets overturned and money is not being poured into politics the way it has for the last 25 years. Like, you're right, money and capitalism drive so much antitrust law. I mean, we're seeing what with this new Ellison merger, four companies are going to own like 80% of the media in America. And it's all, like you said, it's about money and consolidation and power. And on the other side of this, for things to be any different or better, we've got to deal with that.
And I obviously voting while we can is important, but just voting blue no matter who is not going to work. I mean, Illinois is. Hold on, let me look. Illinois is getting ready to have their race for their gubernatorial race as well. And so there's this Democrat who is running as a Democrat, but is like extremely MAGA aligned. But he's the front runner, apparently. Um, and
Okay.
so just voting blue, no matter who, is not going to be enough. We have to actually find candidates that align with what it is that we want, are the agenda that we're most interested in. That I think what we have to do is, as individuals, hear ye, hear ye. Let the record show. Everybody needs to really
Bring it.
take a look, observe the world that's going on, and then really prioritize the things that you're seeing happening in terms of
Yeah.
what's important to you. If you're horrified by ICE, then let's make immigration a key point that you want to vote on. If you're horrified by what's happened to the LGBTQ plus community and the discrimination that they're seeing, then make LGBTQ rights and issues a part of one of the top issues for you to vote
Yeah.
on. And then look at who is out there really presenting solutions to these things. And for the
Hmm.
most part, the solutions to these things is like, um, less corporate influence,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
Corrupting, getting rid of the corruption. Because if we have people that
Yeah.
are really aligned with our issues, then then they will vote alongside us.
Yeah, and go talk to the people in your community who are already organizing around this. Who are the local Ice Watch people? Who are the abolitionists? Who are the queer community organizers who are doing this work already? Because they're going to have ideas that we don't have yet, that you don't have, that I don't have, that they have because they've been working on these things. And I think wherever you're
Hmm.
listening, wherever you are, you can find some other people who share your values. They may be digital, they may live right next door to you. You don't know until you start looking, but like that's I think the answer over and over again in queer history is like coming together, like you said, with other people who align on the issue that is most important to you right now and focusing on that, trying to like solve that problem in the local, in the communal, sharing information and staying connected because the government sure has a big network and they need to be met with resistance that is equally networked.
Agreed. And I think that I think that the communal organizing is obviously key because that's how we find the solutions that's how we identify the problems that are going on, the issues, the problems, the concerns, and the resolutions that are existing in our communities. And that's what the point of politics is about. Like the political system is to vote and to be engaged so that it can impact positively your life, whether it's your small community, your neighborhood, city, state, what. And so that is key. And then the next part, I think, is taking that to these politicians, these candidates, and saying, look, in our communities, in all these communities, this is what we found out what works. We need this type of medication, and we need the tax rate to be this or whatever it's going to be. And you get that politician to sign off on that with a promise and a pledge that they will not go back on that. And if they do, then they know that they are out immediately. Immediately. You don't even get the next cycle. If you lie, we're fucking removing your ass from this thing, and you're done. And we're going to get the next person in. And that's how it goes. That's what I think should happen. No big, like 6-month campaign season where billions of dollars are exchanging hands for some trash candidate. No. You get up there, you tell us your top issues, and we will know who you are by that. And everybody can evolve, but not without explanation. And so we want to hear what you have to say, and we want you to know that we will remove you from office.
Yep.
If you cross us, if you take any corporate spending.
I think evolving is one of those things. It's like an old school math test. You have to show your work. If all you're saying to me is now I feel I'm different without showing me like where you changed, how you changed, what made you change, why you changed, how you think differently, like then I just don't trust that you did the work. I think you just Googled it. Who paid for it?
Mm-hmm.
If you are listening at home and you are working on a strategy or an organizing tip, something that you think we should know about, that other people should know about, something that's working for you, your community, we want to hear about it. Let us know. Drop it in the comments. Send us a message. If you're watching this on YouTube, wherever you're like viewing us, please let us know what's working in your community. What's giving you hope right now? How are you resisting the doom and the administration?
And really, like I know I'm like extremely online and super political, but definitely watch those races in other cities and states. I mean, I'm just really grateful. I could not be more grateful right now to live in New York than ever, especially considering I'm very happy so far with the job that our new mayor Mamdani has done. He's arguably one of the most popular political personalities in the country at the moment. A lot of that has to do with because it's New York City that he's the mayor of, but he obviously has charisma. He's got some flair and style about how he does his campaign and even how he connects with people. But beyond that, his election, I believe, was in huge part because his campaign was so crystal clear. He said, I'm going to do this, 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 and this. And that's all he talked about for that whole couple of months that he was several months that he was campaigning. And I think we have to get back to that. Like, that would be so great to hear not only our political leaders, but the candidates and people who who get into office, hear them just be very clear, I guess, shoot straight from the hip is the expression, whatever it is, just be extremely clear. None of this Gavin Newsom, blah, 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 like,
Yep.
What? Yeah.
No.
That's what I order everyone.
I mean, I think, and then to follow through on it, it's like Mario Cuomo, the governor, used to say, you run in poetry, you govern in prose. And I just don't think that's true anymore. We want the prose at all times. We want to know, what are you going to do? Say it blanket. Don't give me some fake ass statement that has been means tested, focus group to death that you think will get you elected, and then you do whatever the corporate overlords want. No, tell me what you're going to do, and then do it or don't do it. And then we will judge you afterwards. But you better do it.
Yeah, it really is about to me, it's about it's not about the win. Because I think a lot of folks who are like, consider themselves progressive, but are very, can only see the Democratic Party as any viable response to anything. Those folks seem to really be, just hell-bent on, all we have to do is just vote every 4 years and everything it'll work itself out in the wash. But I think that the elections having consequences really needs to also apply to these politicians. And we can make them be clear and tell them, we're not listening to you. If you're going to be wishy-washy and all that, you're out, like I said, and get them to acknowledge that they'll reject corporate bribes and focus on X, Y, and Z, and like make it so simple,
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
everyone just needs to listen to you. If you are listening at home, you're already halfway there. Now just get everyone else you know to listen to Pep. And I think we will have a much better
Uh,
situation on our hands.
let's see how that turns out. There's some great things to look forward to. I have been super like inspired and energized by the change of seasons. And
Mm,
if you're on the East Coast, and also the Pride season that's getting ready to come. It's currently being planned. Hopefully it comes
Hopefully
to
we'll get to
fruition.
have
All
one.
of the
Yeah.
yeah. Things are changing, but we will keep you posted.
Yeah.
Mm.
And let us know. Something
If you
cool coming up in your area? Tell us.
Yes, we want to know. I ain't gonna go, but I do want to know about it. Thank you so much for watching and listening. We're here every single Tuesday, as best we can until something else goes wrong and they take
Well,
the
we're
internet
still
or
allowed
something.
on the
I don't even
airwaves.
know.
Yeah.
Ah! But we
We're not
really
going to name all
appreciate
the
you all.
corporate places you can find us because you know what they are and we don't need to give them more airtime, but you can find us on all of them for now. And we appreciate you doing it.
Yeah, 100%, yeah. And also share this, please. You know, we want to share these clips. This episode in particular is a little bit of a departure. But we might get into talking about some more current events and things like that in the future. And so we also want to know what you think of that. But in the meantime, thank you
Yeah.
so much. Please stay safe. Reach out to the trans people that you know. Reach out to people that are part of certain diasporas that are being bombed right now that you know, to check on them and see how they're doing and send them some love. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Peppermint.
I'm Hugh. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for joining us today.
This podcast is part of Pride House Media, hosted by us, Peppermint and Hugh, produced and edited by Josh Rosenzweig, with original music composed by Nell Balaban.
If you enjoyed this episode, then don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. And while you're there, leave us a rating and a review. It really helps others discover the show.
You can stay connected and join the conversation by following us at Peppermint 24/7 or write to us at questions@queer101podcast.com.
Thank you for listening. And remember, our history is your history. Stay proud, stay curious, and we'll see you next time on Queer 101.